All right, it's another by the numbers. Giving it to you a day early this week, but that's just a fun thing because it's a weird week. So Dan, Ken, how you guys doing?
Life's good, Josh. How about you?
All good. Dan?
Yeah, doing great over here.
All right, all good. All right, we're gonna get into some numbers. First number I got for you guys is 2.5 and 47, and that's the line for this game over at my bookie. It is 2.5, and for the Ravens minus 2.5, so they're
Still
projecting
favored.
a win by the Ravens, even with all the questionable. And 47 is the over/under points total for the game. So going over to my bookie and use the code Ravens. Between NFL, college ball, and there's still time to get on with the election. You can bet and make some money and over at mybookie.ag. And don't forget the underdogs. There's tons of value there. The thing about the NFL is the underdogs are never really dogs on Sundays, and every team truly has a chance to win, and you do too. So that's how you make those Jets games entertaining. If you go on and you bet some underdogs.
Just to be clear, that Ravens code will get a match of their deposit up to $1,000, right?
That's exactly it. Sign on up at MyBookie, and when you do, use our promo code RAVENS to claim a deposit match dollar for dollar all the way up to $1,000. It's a bonus designed to give you a little help and a head start onto your winning season. That's the promo code RAVENS to claim your bonus when you make your first deposit. So go on over there and check it out. I've been doing it for about a year and a half now, and it makes some really crappy NFL games a lot more fun. So, all right, guys, let's get to some Ravens numbers and hopefully some more exciting numbers than the number of guys on the COVID protocol.
Yeah.
All right.
Dan, start us off, my friend.
Sounds good. All right. 265. That's the number of yards rushing by the Ravens in week 8. Not a great outcome in week 8, but man, did their rushing attack look good. It's the highest in 2020 for the Ravens. Only 2 games with higher totals in 2019 against the Rams and the Bengals. They really had everything working on the run game. Um, one player over 100 and 2 others over 50 yards. Steelers defense was legit run defense. They previously were averaging only 68 yards per game in the prior 6 games. So Ravens ran for nearly 4 times that amount. Uh, Steelers, and this was an impressive showing. The Steelers had not given up 265 yards since 1993 season. It's just a kind of another example. The Ravens are currently leading the NFL with 178 yards rushing per game, and also yards per attempt at 5.5. Real solid performance, and hope to see them keep it going.
Yeah, it was a great one for the Steelers. That was only the third time since 1975 they'd given up 250 more yards rushing on the ground. And the funny thing is, I remember this game in 1975. I can see O.J. Simpson doing it against them that year, and it was the game was in September. I remember. Uh, if we look at how the Ravens did some of this, and my next number is going to be 13 of 16 and 0 of 9. The 13 of 16 is Bradley Bozeman's poll results versus the Steelers, which is terrific because he'd had a bad week the week before where he got 0 points net on his polls. But 13 of 16 this week, and the rest of the Ravens went 0 of 9. So I think we're going to see a couple things. First of all, that the right-handed run game is what the Ravens are going to stick with, and in particular now with the changes at tackle. And I think maybe more importantly, and in the grander scheme, is that they really need to find their identity, keep their identity, and build off this new identity as a run-first team where they're willing to once again go on an 8 or 9 or 10 play drive, run every single down as they did in the fourth quarter against the Steelers, and score points doing it that way. I think that's what's going to eventually cure the passing game again.
Yeah, they really had some amazing drives there in that game. Gonna make the defenses play them differently. I haven't had a chance to listen to your offensive podcast, but over 9, that doesn't sound too good on the other players. So I'll have to see how they grade it out. And I guess it'll be interesting to see if there's any shuffling in the O line this week, with Phillips likely out again. So, all right, jumping into the next one. 32.7%. Sticking with the run game, that's the percent of missed tackle rate. That's the missed tackle rate per touch for J.K. Dobbins. So that's the highest out of all running backs with at least 50 touches this season. So that's 52 qualifying running backs, and Dobbins is top in that list with the highest missed tackle rate per touch. Unfortunately, on the other end of the qualifying 52 running backs is Mark Ingram with 5.7%. With Mark Ingram still not practicing as of Wednesday, it looks like there's going to be another matchup with a heavy load of Gus and J.K. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do again this week.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Dobbins' emergence has been fantastic, and he's still at that point where he has an absurdly high yard per carry rate, fueled by a lot of long carries, and got that Ray Rice style to him. I love the way he often goes into the tripod, gets his one hand down with obviously two legs, and he's able to maintain his balance, spin away from somebody using that, and still keep his feet like he did on the 25-yard run down the right sideline.
His balance is amazing. It's crazy to watch.
Very good to watch. One of the tough numbers from this last game was 15. That's the number of dime snaps the Ravens played against the Steelers. None of them, not one, was a traditional third and medium or long situation. In fact, they had 2 3rd-and-1s where the Steelers said, we're throwing 4 wide receivers out here. In fact, the Steelers did it to them every time that they put the dime on the field. And the Ravens said, I guess we better be in dime. And they passed for it anyway on 3rd-and-1 and completed both of those. All the other instances of the dime in this game, all 13 others, were on 1st or 2nd down, and the Steelers were adept at forcing this thin secondary the Ravens had, and obviously this is going to get worse this coming week, into this 4 cornerback dime. Now you and I did the what's that defense video together. You remember the 4 corner dime and how little they played that, basically just that Arizona game in week 2 last year.
Yep.
And the Ravens definitely not prepared with depth at this point to play 4 corners deep.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge if other teams see that and try to do similar. Luckily, most teams don't have the wide receiver core that the Steelers do, but I think a couple of the good teams that the Ravens could face do. So they'll have to figure some solution out for that.
I mean, it seems to me like the Colts this week might be one of them. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, we'll see. I think a couple injuries, so we'll see how that works out for them. So let's see. Sticking with the Ravens offensive rookies, 45.1%. That's the snap count for Devin Duvernay, highest so far this season. Another big thing about it was actually higher than Miles Boykin this week, who only had 40% of the snaps. So it'll be real interesting to see how the split ends up between those two, and with Willie Snead, how the wide receiver 2, 3, 4 dynamic plays out going forward. So
hopefully that competition is healthy. And we've had a guest of the show who's told us that he really doesn't want to hear any more about how good a run blocker Miles Boykin was, but Miles Boykin was amazing in this last game as a run blocker. Had great blocks up the sideline, left on the Jackson run, right on the Dobbins 25-yard run. He was just terrific in this game again as a run blocker. But it's maybe some competition will be healthy in terms of getting 3 different guys snaps there, and each of them has to take a little bit lighter workload. I know one guy who isn't really happy about it is Marquise Brown at this point.
yeah, definitely.
All right, 19 and 108. My next number. This is the sacks and yards lost by Lamar Jackson so far in 2020. He's already lost more yardage on sacks than he did in all of 2019 when he had 23 for minus 106. The offsetting total to that we've talked about in forced not to pass numbers is 131 yards on 19 scrambles. So he's still got 23 more scramble yards than sack yards. That's good. There aren't a lot of quarterbacks in the whole league who do that. But he's down from 5.2 yards per time forced not to pass to less than a half. Actually, I think it's 0.6 yards per time forced not to pass this year. So not where he wants to be exactly. And Lamar, really, as I look at it, he needs to either command a spy or zone defenses all the time and then do better beating the coverages, or he needs to be a big threat, as he was last year, leaving the pocket. But in 2020, he's really not doing enough of either, or maybe I should say that other defenses have adapted to who he is.
Yeah, I think one other thing may be the case is seems to me he's been pressing a lot this season, trying to make the big play or throw it downfield a lot, and hasn't been as definitive in some of his decisions. So that may be something going on as well. So all right, next number is negative 20.4. That's the EPA for the 4 Ravens turnovers. So that's the expected points added, or in this case subtracted, for the 4 Ravens turnovers. Turnovers always play a role in games, but these ones were really significant in the Ravens Steelers game. Breaking it out, it was negative 7.6 for the pick six in quarter one, negative 5.4 for the interception to start quarter three, negative 4.6 for the sack fumble on Pittsburgh 13, and then negative 2.8 for the fumble slash turnover on downs play in quarter four. It'll be really key for Lamar to limit these negative plays going forward.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So you're telling me, wait, turnovers had some part in the outcome of that
Yeah,
game?
just a little bit, a small outcome or a small impact. So.
All right, let's look ahead for a moment at Phillip Rivers. I've got a couple stats to finish up on him, but I'll go with the first is that Phillip Rivers has had 4.2 average completed air yards for this year. So he's throwing, again, a high percentage completion rate, but he's not throwing down the field all that much. When he has, he's been effective, but most of his passes are very short, and he's much in line with Roethlisberger and Haskins of Washington as quarterbacks who really try and dink and dunk the opponent. And the Ravens, I think, are going to need to be careful in terms of how they put him in a cage and deal with them this weekend to try and minimize the impact of that.
Yeah, that seems to be a trend on the quarterbacks we've been facing. Mahomes kind of did a similar thing, shorter passes as well. So it seems to be a trend this year. All right, my last set of numbers is 52.2%, 25.4%, and 22.4%. That's the target share for wide receiver, running backs, and tight ends for the Colts. The 52.2% is the sixth lowest target share for wide receivers amongst all NFL teams. The 25.4% is the fifth highest target share for running backs, and their 22% is the seventh highest target share for tight ends. So, very low target share for wide receivers, very high target share for running backs and tight ends. So, one good thing is that could help out with the Ravens secondary being really stretched very thin this week, to say to say the least. So, it will be interesting to see how we match up against those running backs and tight ends, but having kind of a depleted wide receiver core may be helpful. And to further that, currently T.Y. Hilton is out, so we'll see how that plays out as well.
Okay. Now, I didn't inspect that, but my last stat might have kind of fed into that, is that 4.2 average completed air yards probably includes a number of screen passes if there's that many running back throws. Certainly includes a lot of checkdowns.
Yep.
So a lot of those are going to be behind the line of scrimmage and contribute, in a negative way to that average. All right, that's very interesting. My last number is 7. The number of times Phillip Rivers has been sacked in 7 games. The Ravens obviously are going to have a game here where their secondary is going to have to do some of the work. And it means you have to drop into coverage, allow Rivers to make his own mistakes. They did that against Haskins. Haskins didn't end up turning the ball over, which is un-Haskins-like. But he did, was not effective with his short passes at moving the Washington team down the field, really. They need to basically do that with Rivers. Force long drives. They'll have opportunities, whether it's in the running game or when receivers get the ball, to try and pry the ball loose and do what the Ravens do there. But, Phillip Rivers is going to have to make his own mistakes, I think, in this game. I don't think the Ravens are going to force a lot of errors by pressuring him. We'll see how that goes.
Yep. Unfortunately, another game where Yannick doesn't get to have a ton of time to shine. So, but it'll be a good one. So.
There you go. All right, Dan, great doing this with you every week, and we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.